Nana, nor were the sounds of the sister or tambour heard in the sunlight that morning. At such a time as this, Goreans do not sing nor speak. They are silent, for at such a time words mean nothing, and would demean or insult. In such a time, there can be for Goreans only silence, memory, and fire. The procession was led by 4 warriors, who supported on their shoulders a framework of crossed spears, lashed together, on which, wrapped in the scarlet leather of a townsman, lay the body. Kuurus watched, unmoved, as the 4 warriors carried their scarlet burden to the height of the huge, sweet-smelling, oil-impregnated pyre. Averting their eyes, the warriors threw back the scarlet leather, that the body might lie free on the spears, open to the wind and sun. He was a large man, Kuurus noted, in the leather of a warrior. The hair, he remarked, was unusual. The procession, and those who had been earlier at the pyre, now stood back from it some 50 yards or so, for the oil-impregnated wood will take the torch quickly and fiercely. There were 3 who stood near the pyre. One wore the brown robes of the administrator of a city, the humblest robes in the city, and was hooded. Another wore the blue of the caste of scribes, a small man, almost tiny, bent now with pain and grief. The last was a very large man, broad of back and shoulder, bearded, and with long blonde hair, a warrior. Yet even the warrior seemed in that moment shaken. Kuurus saw the torch lit, and then, with a cry of pain, thrown by the warrior onto the small mountain of oiled wood. The wood leaped suddenly alive, with a blaze that was almost a burst of fire, and the 3 men staggered backward, their forearms thrown across their eyes. Kuurus bent down and picked up a stalk of grass and chewed on it, watching. The reflection of the fire, even in the sunlight, could be seen on his face. His forehead began to sweat. He blinked his eyes against the heat. The men and women of Kuroba stood circled about the pyre, neither moving nor speaking, for better than 2 arn. After about half an arn, the pyre, still fearful with heat and light, had collapsed with a roar, forming a great, fiercely burning mound of oil-soaked wood. At last, when the wood burned only here and there, and what had been the pyre was mostly ashes and glowing wood, the men of a dozen castes, each carrying a jar of chilled wine, moved about, pouring the wine over the fire, quenching it. Other men sought in the ashes for what might be found of the warrior. Some bones and some whitish ash they gathered in white linen and placed in an urn of red and yellow glass. Kuurus knew that such an urn would be decorated, probably, since the man had been a warrior, with scenes of the hunt and war. The urn was given to him who wore the robes of the administrator of the city, who took it and slowly, on foot, withdrew toward Kuroba, followed by the large blonde warrior and the small scribe. The ashes, Kuurus judged, since the body had been wrapped in the scarlet leather of a townsman, would be scattered from Tarnbach, perhaps over distant Thassa, the sea. Kuurus stood up and stretched. He picked up his short sword in its scabbard, his helmet, and his shield. These he slung over his left shoulder. Then he picked up his spear and stood there against the sky on the crest of the hill, in the black tunic. Those who had come to the pyre had now withdrawn slowly toward the city. Only 1 man remained near the smoking wood. He wore a black robe with a stripe of white down the front and back. Kuurus knew that it would be this man who wore the black, but not the full black of the assassin, who would deal with him. Kuurus smiled bitterly to himself. He laughed at the stripe of white. Their tunic, said Kuurus to himself, is as black as mine. When the man near the smoking wood turned to face him, Kuurus descended the hill. He was now welcome.